1,
2, 3, 4,
5.
Just imagine being surrounded by nearly 1,000 students ranging from the ages 14 to 19 years old and trying to depict the kids that belong and the ones that don't. With information from the Sweet 101 website, the Education Bug website, and the SlideShare about school uniforms, I am here to tell you why school uniforms are a good idea. What's one thing people complain most about girls? That they take forever to get ready, and choosing an outfit for school is a pretty big deal for a young teenage girl and the occasional boy. I know personally and from some of my friends' experiences that it is very time consuming when you're trying to decide on what to wear. Girls cannot just look at their clothes and decide on what they're going to wear that day. They have to try on everything that comes across their mind and that's in their closet. You can just imagine the entire closet's content thrown all over the room while the time is ticking away to the first tardy bell and they still haven't a clue on what they're going to wear. How can this problem be solved? School uniforms is the answer. With uniforms, a child already knows what they're going to wear the next morning, canceling out a major portion of their morning trying to pick out clothes, letting the student sleep in just a tad bit longer, and everyone knows how much a student loves to sleep in. Remember all those clothes that I mentioned that were thrown all out over the room? With uniforms, there would not be as many clothes and as much of a mess. How's that? With uniforms, you would not have as much of a clothes selection, seeing as you can wear the same clothes week after week. This helps with the cost of clothing also. Not only will you be able to wear the same clothes more often, the prices of uniforms could quite possibly be cheaper than the high-priced name brands that the youth are more inclined to liking. With the budget cut in clothing, this ends up having an increase in spending on things that you would like to do and the necessities of life. I mentioned before that the spending on brand name clothes would lessen, for school clothes at least. This helps with the equality in schools. Not all students are able to spend high prices on clothing, making some kids feel inferior to their peers. With uniforms, kids can spend less time on their own appearance and how others view them and focus on what's actually important, that being their education. With kids not having to worry if they meet the status quo, there could quite possibly be an incline in grades because it has a reduction of distractions. Also, a kid does not have to worry about clothing being taken if it is the same as everyone else's. A young 17-year-old boy was shot and killed on the spot when he refused to give up his leather jacket to a fellow student. With that being said, I come to my last and I feel most important point: security. With uniforms, it makes a more secure environment. It is a lot easier telling who belongs, who doesn't belong, minimizes gang apparel, and prevents the concealing of weapons. When there is a set dress code, it is a lot easier to see who belongs there because if someone were to walk in off the street, they would probably not be wearing the proper attire. I come from a larger high school. We have around 1,000 students enrolled, and it is hard learning the faces of all the students. Uniforms helped our school significantly, not just from telling who belonged there, but with gangs. Gangs have become somewhat popular in the youth nowadays, and with uniforms, it can cut back on certain gang-style clothing. People can argue with you day after day that the gang signs will still be there, but it does cut back drastically. With uniforms, you can only wear certain colors, have your shirts tucked in properly. Also, you would not be allowed to wear certain jewelry, hats, and so on and so forth. Uniforms also help with weaponry. Our school and many others are not allowed to wear boots and other large clothing that can conceal weapons. This cuts down on the crime rate. A statistic I found that after enforcing a dress code, the crime rate dropped a staggering amount of 91% at a school in Long Beach, California. Their school's ratio of suspensions even dropped 90%. Therefore, if more schools enforce the uniforms, there would be more time for students, more money in your pocket, equality between peers, and more security.
1,
2,
3,
4,
5,